Hello.
Hello. Hi,
What's
Brian. Hello, listeners. This is Dream Idiots. How are you doing, Brian?
good? What's up? I almost said, "What's up, Vato?" Yeah, all good here.
I am recovering from last night's concert where I saw Los Lobos and X, and my ears are still ringing from the X half of the show, but it was well worth the whatever it is you lose in your ears when you hit.
What?
Anyway, it was a
Right.
great show. Yeah.
Good.
Each week, we tell each other stories and bring you along from the ride. You can find us at one convenient place now, dreamidiots.com. And what all can they find there, Brian?
We've got the whole back catalog of now. I mean, today's episode's 156 plus some compilation, so a total of like 170, 180 episodes.
Woo!
Link to some merchandise, link to YouTube. We're on pretty much every single platform there is out there. So if you can like and share and subscribe and give us 5 stars on whichever platform you're on, that helps us out. You can also drop us a line. There's a contact us link on the website, or you can just drop us an email. If you got a story idea or a curse word of the week, whatever, that's fine. Dreamidiotspodcast at Gmail, or just use the contact form. Either way.
Yep, that's great. We take turns going first. It's my turn this time, but we've got a few announcements first. Brian, you have something for us?
Just the one. So we kind of punted last week completely and didn't even do a rerun. The episode 2 weeks ago, my story, the curious case of Zoe McClellan. We had some good downloads on that. Someone reached out. I didn't really dive when I was doing the research for that one. I didn't dive into all of the Byzantine maze of things that were available online, especially on Reddit, because it started to get confusing and kind of had contradictory information on it, and lots of people just spitballing about the story. But one guy reached out, don't know who he is, but was sharing the link to our YouTube video, and he messaged me to say that he is convinced that Zoe McClellan and her son might be in Canada, but he is convinced, according to him, sources are saying that she is out of the country, potentially in Costa Rica, which is better than being deceased. Don't really know if that's true or not, but interesting little tidbit from the
Costa
story two
Rica's
weeks ago.
not in Canada.
No, it's not. Famously.
Hmm. Okay. Well, thanks for getting in contact with this mysterious person. Appreciate it. Um, I've got a couple of announcements real quick. The first one is that you may recall we did a three-parter on the Jazz Ambassadors, and in that I connected it to the Five Points neighborhood here in Denver, kind of tracing 100 years of jazz on the continent, so to speak, when a group of African American, primarily soldiers, took the music over to Brest, France in World War One, and that tangentially got me onto the story of a man named Charles Burrell. If you recall, Brian, he was the
Yeah.
last living. Yes. Well, he is no longer
No
among the
longer
living.
living. Ah, that sucks.
He passed away last month on June 17th at the age of 104.
Wow.
Go back and listen to a story if you haven't heard that one. A fantastic musician, a first in so many areas, the first African American to play with a major symphonic orchestra. Just incredible dude, and I was privileged to have sat somewhere near him that day at Dazzle Club Dazzle. But Charles Burrell, kind of a local patron saint of music here in Denver, has passed away at the age of 104. Um, Second announcement. And this is just kind of brief, and I don't know if you've been following this, Brian, but that's kind of what you get if you go to a Coldplay concert. That's and that's all I'll say about that.
Yeah, great story. I didn't look at it super closely. I saw in passing that the director of HR, who had bought the tickets and then provided them to those two people, has since been fired. Like he didn't do anything wrong. I mean, what? So, and hopefully, I mean, I can only assume that there'll be some spouses filing for divorce here anytime.
Oh, I think it's already in the works. Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, don't. Yeah. Okay. Well, that's again.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, they're all yellow, and so fuck them.
Um. So with my story today, Brian, it's episode 156. Let's start by talking about Waterville, Maine. Brian, what do you know about Waterville, Maine?
I am pretty sure it's in Maine, but other than that, I have no idea.
Well, I know that
Never heard of it.
you have family kind of sort of in Maine. It is located in south central Maine.
Okay.
and currently has a population of almost 16,000 people as per the 2020 census. As always, I like to provide information on Institute of Higher Education in the area. This time it's Colby. You ever heard of Colby College?
No.
Okay, it's 212 years old as of this writing and matriculates almost 2,300 students. Alumni from Colby include Ben Bradley Jr., don't get excited, Doris Kearns Goodwin,
Great.
Elijah Lovejoy, the famous abolitionist, Robert B. Parker, the author of the Spencer Mystery Series, Dan Harris, former journalist turned meditation guru, and Billy Bush, he of the grab him by you, the new you know what
Yeah. Right.
interview with
That's
President
right.
Trump, and an online friend of mine named DeBrickazar. That's not his real name. Now, Bryan, you know that I've told you it's Colby College in Waterville, Maine. So let me put this to you.
Oh no.
While studying at Colby College, if you're a beast of burden during Christmas time, you might be called a blank blank.
A beast of burden during Christmas time.
You might be called a blank blank. Any idea?
Honky donkey. No. A beast of burden. Yule mule.
Yes, you would be called a Yule Mule. Very good,
Mhm.
Bryan. Enough about Colby College. A few of the well-known folks who Waterville lays claim to are State Representative, 64th Governor of Maine, U.S. Senator, and Secretary of State Edmund Muskie. He practiced law there prior to his political career. Muskie was perhaps the most important target of Richard Nixon's dirty tricks crew, aka the Rat Fuckers, in the 1972 presidential campaigns. Paul LePage served as mayor of Waterville and later as the state's 74th governor. He's a jerk. You can look him up. He's a real jerk.
Okay.
More vetoes than all the other governors combined. Charles Terry is also a Waterville native, and he's a jerk of the highest order. He's for sure a murderer and quite possibly a serial killer. There's a chance that some of the victims attributed to the Boston Strangler in the early 60s may have been his work. Now, DNA evidence, of course, linked Albert DeSalvo to one of the murders, I believe the final one, plus DeSalvo also confessed. Regardless, Charles Terry did murder a woman named Zenobia Clegg, and is the primary suspect in three other murders outside of the canonical Boston Strangler cases, including a woman in Louisiana. David E. Kelly, all around television heavy hitter whose imagination gave us The Practice, Picket Fences, and Ally McBeal, among others, is the son of Waterville. This lucky yet hardworking bastard has also been married to Michelle Pfeiffer for over 30 years. And then, of course, Bryan, there's Richard Hooker. Do you know who Richard Hooker is? It's
The
tickling
name
the
rings a
neurons, I
bell.
can
Yeah,
tell.
kind of. I'm not sure.
That's
No.
the pen name of Dr. Richard Hornberger. He's a doctor who set up practice in Waterville in the 1950s. He's better known as the author of MASH, a novel about three
Oh,
doctors.
okay.
He's the real life Hawkeye Pierce. But the Waterville person I want to discuss today is a fellow by the name of Abbott Vaughn. That's Vaughn Meader. Ring any bells?
No, none.
Okay. He was born March 20th, 1936. He didn't go by Abbott, he went by Vaughn. And he got off to
Good
a
call.
he got off to a rough start. When Vaughn was 18 months old, his father drowned while swimming. And I think it was one of those cases where he dove in, broke his neck, and just didn't surface. His mother left town for a career as a Boston cocktail waitress, and young Vaughn stayed behind for a while with family members. The plan was for the boy to join his mother after she got established in the city. But at the age of 5, Vaughn instead was placed in a children's home, which I can't imagine was great in 1941.
Right.
His mother had become a full-blown alcoholic and was unable to care for her son. Vaughn seems to have bounced around a lot until just after high school graduation when he signed up with the U.S. Army in 1953. That's really not a bad time to enlist if you're going to
Right.
build a career,
Right.
learn a few things.
Korea is over, and right. Vietnam's far enough away. Right.
Yep. Um, Now, he was a lab tech by assignment, but the skills he developed were of the entertainment variety. Vaughn got together with some fellow soldiers and formed a country and western band called the Rhine Rangers while stationed in Mannheim, West Germany. Part of the success of the group lay with Meader's ability to mimic well-known singers of the day.
Hmm.
Okay. Now, Glenn Campbell's 1975 hit, itself a cover of Larry Weiss's 1974 song, Rhinestone Cowboy, was based on Meader's experiences serving overseas in the Army. Rhinestone was slang for a marijuana strain named after the Rhine River that the soldiers could purchase on the streets of Mannheim. Like a rhinestone cowboy riding out on a horse in a star-spangled rodeo. Like a That's all nonsense. That's horseshit. That has nothing to do with his career as a Rhine Ranger. Um, Vaughn and met and married a German actress and moved to New York City after his stint in the Army was up. He started his career as a singer and a pianist and dabbled in stand-up comedy. And it's here, Bryan, where you're probably going to ask the question, that's great, Morris, but what about the Grammy Awards? And that's a good question, Bryan. I'm
Good.
I'm
That's why
glad
I'm
you
here.
brought it up. Yep. Um, Numerous categories have come and gone with the Grammys, which started in 1959. Parameters for awards have changed over the years as well. One of the mainstays from the beginning is Album of the Year. And from 1959 to 1963, two of the five Grammys awarded for Best Album were not music oriented. Quick
Oh,
rundown.
really? Wow.
Yep. Quick rundown. 1959's album winner was Music from Peter Gunn by Henry Mancini.
Huh.
1960s was a musical album. Come Dance With Me or I'll Punch You in the Kisser by Frank Sinatra. 1962's was an excellent live album, Judy at Carnegie Hall from Judy Garland. But in 1961 and 1963, comedy took home the award for Best Albums. These would be the only instances of non-musical albums of the year, as comedy and spoken word were spun off into their own category eventually. Do you want to guess what the 1961 album was? I'll give you a hint. It's one of your favorites. One of your favorite comedians.
1961. One of my favorite
Hmm.
comedians.
Yep. One
Well,
of
it
your
couldn't.
favorites.
It couldn't be too early or too early for Carlin.
Yep.
I have no idea.
It was The Button Down Mind of Bob Newhart. Bob
Oh,
Newhart won
oh
the
yeah.
Grammy for
Right.
1961.
Yes,
Yep.
friggin' brilliant. Yeah, still love him.
For 1963, an album with many performers, but largely credited to Vaughn Meader, won. In his time honing his comedy skills, replete with his spot-on mimicry he displayed as the frontman of the Rhine Rangers, Vaughn Meader had found his niche. With his natural New England accent, Meader had developed a spectacular impersonation of John F. Kennedy,
John F. Kennedy, per se.
one of which he often wove into his stand-up routines. And that's how an album featuring Vaughn Meader and a cast of actors portraying the Kennedy family became the fastest-selling album in U.S. history up until that point. It was titled The First Family. Here it is.
I have never heard of this before. Wow. Okay.
Released, you're going to love this story. Released in November of 1962, the album sold 7.5 million copies by March of 1963. It stayed at the number one position on Billboard charts for an astonishing 12 weeks. But the album almost didn't get released. Some folks couldn't get behind the idea of a comedian poking fun at the Kennedy family. Plus, there's the circumstances of the production itself. The album was recorded live in front of a studio audience in New York City on October 22nd, 1962.
Okay.
Does that date ring a bell?
October 22nd,
The
1962.
audience did not know, the audience didn't know what the cast already knew, that just prior to the performance, President Kennedy delivered televised speech on the subject of Soviet missiles located
In
on the
Cuba.
island nation of Cuba.
Yeah.
While they were recording that evening, the nation moved to DEFCON 3 during the Cuban Missile Crisis.
Eesh. God.
The tensions between the US and the Soviet Union increased by the hour and would do so until October 28th. And the audience members had no idea. Remember, it was 1962, no smartphones.
All
The producers decided to basically put a cone of silence over the theater so as not to dampen the mood. Cadence Records considered pulling the project, but took a chance on the album, and in less than a month, sales blew past the current leader, the self-titled debut album from Peter, Paul, and Mary,
Okay.
which led to the B-side for their next single titled, Hey, Who Does the Wind Have to Blow Around Here to Stay Number One on the Sales Charts? The First Family Volume 2 was recorded and released in March of 1963 and also sold briskly. Vaughn Meader had made it, appearing on the Ed Sullivan, Jack Parr, and Joey Bishop television programs. Let's not forget the game shows he was on. To Tell the Truth and What's My Line? Time and Life magazines ran features about the comedian from Maine. His nightclub slate was full, playing big venues like the Sahara in Las Vegas. He even played Carnegie Hall, Bryan.
Yeah. So, and would have been the first comedian ever to do
I
that.
don't
Probably.
know.
I mean,
I
unless someone again,
no idea.
unless someone like Bob Newhart had maybe.
I don't know.
Yeah, that's
The first
incredible.
Carlin performance I can think of is Carlin at Carnegie, George Carlin at Carnegie.
Right.
Vaughn met and opened for popular performers of the day, such as Judy Garland and Harry Belafonte. Frank Sinatra liked Vaughn so much that he invited him to join the Rat Pack, and Vaughn turned him down.
That's the right answer.
This brush off was the subject of Sinatra's early 1963 single, Hey, Up Yours, Pal, I'm talking to you, Meader. The B-side was, You Stupid Fogats, Mameluke. It did not sell well. Bryan, I listened to the First Family Volume 1 in its entirety. The humor is a bit creaky, much like a product of its time. After all, it's over 6 decades old. Most of the jokes revolve around a situation where it appears that something very important is happening or being discussed, only for it to be revealed that something very mundane is going on. For example, one sketch involves various world leaders sitting around a conference table. Kennedy, Khrushchev, Castro, de Gaulle, Adenauer. They're hashing out something important, perhaps a global policy that should be addressed. But no, they're arguing over what to order for lunch. And yes, there's a Khrushchev borscht joke in there somewhere.
Right.
My favorite sketch on the album sees Jackie giving a tour of the White House to a journalist, with each new hall or room described by the breathy, refined First Lady. She's careful to note each room's patron. At one point, the president, still wet from a shower, encounters the tour, asking Jackie directions to their own bedroom. My favorite reference is to the Ulysses S. Grant drinking room. What appears to be a press conference is actually a simple family discussion sounding very much like a press conference. It begins mid-scene, with Kennedy expertly and thoroughly describing an economic policy. He wraps this up by saying, So I trust this answers your question about your weekly allowance, Caroline. The president makes the First Lady stand and identify herself before asking her question. I'm your wife, she says. Then JFK breaks up a spat between Caroline and her uncle Bobby, the latter of whom has taken offense at the violation of touch football rules at the most recent White House game. President Kennedy takes a question from the House nurse regarding the allocation of bath toys between Caroline and young John. The following toys have been appropriated for tub use: 18 PT boats, 3 Yogi Bear beach balls, 2 Howdy Doody plastic bouncing clowns, a bowl of silly putty, and a rubber swan. He distributes all of the toys to the children except for the last one because the rubber swan is mine. And then there's an eerie exchange. The president calls on the baby in the back row there, baby John. John says, and JFK responds with, Well, I believe I answered that question at dinner last night. If you remember, here is what I said at that time. Ga-ba-doo, ba-doo-ba-dee, ga-ba-ba-ba-doo-ba-ga. The Kennedy family reactions to the album have been the subject of much discussion over the years. Jackie didn't like it, particularly in regards to her children's portrayals. She allegedly wanted Vaughn Meader banned from all media. The president reportedly gave copies of the album to his staff as presents for what would be his final Christmas in 1962. He used the albums for joke material himself during speeches, saying things like, Vaughn Meader couldn't make it tonight, so I'm filling in for him, and claiming that Meader sounded more like Teddy than me, which apparently irritated the youngest Kennedy brother. After the events of November 22nd, 1963, the jokes weren't funny anymore. That would take a while. Cadence Records pulled all extant copies of both First Family volumes. Over the decades, copies trickled out into used record stores, flea markets, and garage sales. I picked up both volumes for about $5 each, after perhaps 10 minutes of searching at a local record store. There was a CD reissue at one point, and Apple Music streams both volumes for the curious listener.
Hmm.
As for Vaughn Meader, He found out about the assassination during a cab ride in Milwaukee. The driver knew who he was. At first, Meader thought he was about to hear a joke when the driver asked if he'd heard about Kennedy. Vaughn must have realized at that moment that his career was over. He made a couple of comedy albums in 1964 and 65, ones without any Kennedy material. They sank from sight. He struggled with drugs and alcohol. He returned to Maine and pursued a career in country and bluegrass music, right where he had started about a decade prior. Or, as JFK once said, decade. Have you ever heard that in that speech? Do you remember that?
No.
Why does Rice fight Texas? We do it because it's hard. We will get to the moon in this decade. Vaughn appeared in a couple of films. He opened and managed a pub, marrying several times over the years. I'll give the final words on this subject to the great stand-up comedian Lenny Bruce, who had a gig the evening of November 30th, 1963, some 8 days after the assassination. Bruce appeared on stage and stood quietly with a microphone for a few minutes, simply surveying the crowd. He appeared to be pondering something. Finally, he let out a whistle and spoke the first words of his set. Wow, boy, poor Vaughn Meader. On October 29th, 2004, Vaughn Meader died in Auburn, Maine, some 50 miles from Waterville. He was 68.
Hmm.
And that is the story of Vaughn Meader and one of the fastest selling albums in the history of the United States.
Yeah, the name Vaughn Meader rings a bell, but I've never heard those records, I don't think. Uh, I mean, if I have, I mean, so I have to go do some searching.
I talked with a neighbor of mine who is a big Kennedy guy. He's from that part of the world. He says he remembers listening to that album
Oh yeah.
as a youngin. Yeah. Sources for this were a piece by J.M. McNabb on cracked.com from June 12th, 2024. Did Lenny Bruce really do stand up right after JFK was shot? He didn't. It was 8 days later. There's a legend that the original thing he said, well, he came out on stage and went, "Wow, boy, is Vaughn Meader fucked?" But that's apparently he didn't say that. Caitlin Schneider's July 10th, 2015 article, "The Surprising Story of Famed JFK Impersonator Vaughn Meader and Why You've Never Heard of Him" from mentalfloss.com. The First Family, 1962 LP sound recording, Cadence Records, Bob Booker and Earl Dode, producers, and Wikipedia for basic info. I've had that one rattling around for a
Yeah.
while.
So I have to say your Kennedy is not bad. Your impression
Oh, thank you.
is pretty good. And you may recall, I'm not sure what year this would. I mean, this would have been probably 20 years ago. I was in Boston with whatever passed for a cell phone at the time. It was not a smartphone. Walking, I was in Boston Common, and so this is 2003 or four, somewhere in there. Probably just a flip phone. I have no idea what I had, but I'm walking around with whatever passed for a cell phone at the time. My phone rings. I don't think I know it's you calling me. I go, hello. And you said in your best Kennedy voice, is this Bryan Kennedy?
I don't,
I don't know. Hey, Morris.
I, I don't remember doing that,
Yeah, but you knew I was in Boston, so you're calling to
but
harass me.
but that sounds very much like something I would do.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
I will trust that it's true. All
yeah.
right.
Yeah, very funny.
Yeah, very funny, very tragic, very, very human story, I think, when you
Yeah.
latch your cart to one particular way of thinking.
Yes.
Brian, do we have a curse word of the week? I'm sorry, what were you going to say?
Yes. Yeah. I was about to make an off-color joke that I'm now rethinking. So I will keep that joke to myself since we're recording.
Okay.
I'll save it for later. Yes, and we do have a curse word of the week to transition us before we go to mine. This is actually a word you may have heard of before. Do you know what a briffit is? Briffit. Briffit.
Uh,
It's not anything really nasty. It's a funny word I had never heard of before, and so I wanted to use it.
it's the old English spelling of brisket. Cooper's Barbecue has great briffit. I have no idea. I
Not
don't know
okay.
what briffit is.
Briffits are the clouds of dust
Mhm.
left by comic book characters when they
Oof.
run.
I'm
Or,
surprised I don't
or
know that. I'm surprised I don't know that one.
Or with Pigpen when he does anything, but the clouds of dust, or
Yes,
when Calvin and Hobbes sprint out of frame, that's a Briffit. That's a good word.
I had no idea. I've never heard that before. I will have to consult with comic historian Bill Field on that one.
Right, right.
That's
That's
Griffiths.
right. I'm not sure. I found that saved off in the treasure trove of random horse shit that is my cell phone. So when I find things that are funny and interesting, I grab it, and then I'm not sure where I found that, but
So
oh,
does Briffit also apply to the little like the little clouds of dust that have fists coming out of them and stuff when someone's in a
good,
fight, like
yeah,
in Andy Cap
right.
or Heathcliff or one of those? Okay.
But with the asterisk and the pound sign and the question
Yeah,
mark,
exactly. Yeah, yeah. And all you
right,
see is a fist or a
right,
foot or someone's
right.
head pop up. Yeah.
Uh, Briffit,
Okay.
Briffit. All
That's a
right.
good one.
So here we go for my story, and let's see if you can figure out where this story is going. So if the person I'm starting out talking about rings a bell and you know who this is and where this is heading, by all means stop me and let me know. Throughout human history, as because we are sort of inherently stupid and self-involved apes, basically as a species, we have often humans sought to set records of distance, endurance, achievement. Hot air balloons come up, and then someone decides, "Hey, let's see if we can set the record for sailing it over there." Or planes come about, let's set the record for flying over this or under that. All these types of things, and very often these ideas are just ill-advised and reckless
Sure.
as we head further and further into the 20th century and certainly the 21st century. It feels like that becomes even more and more true. Speaking of which, rest in peace, Felix Baumgartner. Uh, so this is you know who Felix Baumgartner is, right?
Man, it's tickling some neurons, but I couldn't tell you.
Felix Baumgartner is a man way younger than you and I, under 40, I believe. He's the guy who went up in the Red Bull hot air balloon and leapt off at like 120,000 feet or some crazy height. He set the world record for distance parachuting, I guess, about say 10 years ago.
Hmm.
It's the video of it is incredible because he is standing on a precipice on this balloon, what appears to be space. It isn't. I mean, there's video of it, and there is blackness above him,
Hmm.
and he steps off the edge and parachutes down. But he's in a spacesuit. I mean, he is so high up.
Oh, wait, he's in a silver suit, right? I think I remember
Yeah,
this now. Yeah, okay, okay, yeah.
yeah. It's so, but because he's one of these adrenaline guys, he died this weekend paragliding again, doing something else incredibly reckless, crashed into something. Like, oh, God, so tragic and very young man now not with us. So sorry about that. So this is less. It's not as tragic as that, but maybe somewhat in the same vein. Irwin Baker was born in 1882, somewhere in Indiana. Records are unclear. It was clear, however, from the moment he was born that he enjoyed motorized vehicles. He could and would ride or drive pretty much anything. If it had wheels, he could drive it. In 1908, when he's about 25, 26, he buys an Indian motorcycle. And in 1909, he enters and he actually wins the first ever race held at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway.
Hmm.
He then leaves town and is basically just driving anywhere and everywhere. Over the course of 3 months, he logs over 14,000 miles on
Wow.
I'm not sure what quality roads, to be honest. At the end of this period of time, he finds himself in Florida, manages to then catch a boat to Cuba, rides around Cuba for a while, then goes to Jamaica. The driving tour of Jamaica, which actually I have done, is short. That's a small place. Then manages to hitch a ride over to Panama, spends some time there, and then gets on yet another boat to takes him up to the West Coast, takes him to California, and then he sets about riding and driving all over the Southwest, kind of doing endurance trips into Arizona, into Nevada. And around this time, he decides he wants to set a new world record for a transcontinental trip. It may have actually been the first one in a motorized vehicle. In 1915, Baker drives. In 1915, drives from L.A. to New York City in 11 days, 7 hours, and 15 minutes in a car I had never heard of before, a Stutz Bearcat.
Oh, Stutz Bearcats are cool. The one with the little round window in the front?
And yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
open to
yeah.
open,
Uh-huh.
open, so
Yep.
open top. Yeah, they look cool. I can't. I mean, top speed must be 300 yards. I don't know, it's nothing. Uh,
The windscreen is literally like smaller than a manhole cover, and it's
right,
just
like I don't
there in
like
the middle. Yeah,
right,
yeah.
decorative, merely
Yep.
decorative. He does it again the following year. Again, going west to east, L.A. to Times Square. This time in a Cadillac 8 Roadster. Again, I can't. That one I didn't look up, so I can't picture that one. Shortens his time. This time does it in 7 days, 11 hours, and 52 minutes.
Good Lord.
And on on this trip, he does the entire trip with a newspaper reporter from Indianapolis. He's best remembered really for his cross country trip in 1933. This time going westerly, New York to L.A. In yet again another car I had never heard of before.
Hmm.
This time he's driving a Graham Page,
Yep.
Graham hyphen Paige, Graham Page, model 57 Blue Streak 8. So an 8 cylinder of some sort, setting a genuine record here. So 53 hours, 53 and a half hours, uh, just 18 years later. Somewhere along the line, a reporter, perhaps the one who'd been in the car with him for that week, gave him the nickname Cannonball,
Mm-mm. Okay. Okay.
named after the
Yep.
Cannonball Express, which is a train that departs out of Illinois. Later on, he would become the first commissioner of NASCAR, and then he passes away in 1960 at the age of 78. But that's not the end of the story. A few years later, very early 70s, 1971, two guys, Brock Yates and Dan Gurney. They both work for Car and Driver magazine. Brock is a journalist, and Gurney is actually the editor. And they decide to start a coast to coast race, calling it initially the Cannonball Baker Sea to Shining Sea Memorial Trophy Dash, which is too long to put on a t-shirt. But they are attempting to honor the memory of Irwin Cannonball Baker, and also it's a bit of a fuck you because against government regulation and speed limits, and basically they decide this is a completely no rules, unsanctioned. You're starting here, you're ending there. It doesn't matter how you get there. Uh, whatever comes, and there are no rules. Do whatever you have to do to get there, and if you get caught, it's on you, basically.
Right.
So in 1971, Gurney and Yates, do this for the first time. They're driving a Ferrari Daytona, and they managed this trip in 35 hours and 54 minutes.
I'm sorry. How long?
35 hours and 36 hours. They go
Holy
nearly, nearly,
shit.
nearly 2,000 miles. Over the course of the 70s, there are sanctioned races on I think 5 occasions. And in 1975, there is a film called Cannonball, starring David Carradine, who, whenever I see David Carradine, I always think of either Kung Fu or Kill Bill. I have not,
Sure.
so I have not seen the 75 movie. But of course, 1981 rolls around, and you have the first Cannonball Run, Farrah Fawcett, Burt Reynolds, Tom DeLuise, Roger Moore, Jackie Chan, Dean Martin. Um, Funny movie as I recall, but I was 11 at the time. I suspect it probably hasn't aged that well. But anyway, big hit, and certainly spawned a a sequel as well. So
Yeah, but
35,
I didn't see the first one, so I was totally lost.
you're
And
lost.
so,
And like, but does he get the girl in the end or not? And so basically 36 hours is the record. After the movies come out, the race kind of fades a little bit. I mean, some folks may have done it in the intervening decades.
mhm.
We get to early 2000s, and it starts to come back. And now there is new technology. There are online forums. You can get help. You can get local help. In your community if you want to get some some help along the route. GPS is beginning to roll out. There are radar detectors, radar jammers, And a guy named Alex Roy decides, you know what, I'm gonna give it a go again and try to beat the record. In 2006, Alex Roy sets out again, starting from the garage. It's a very specific location. You have to start in Manhattan. This garage, and he sets out in 2006, driving a modified BMW M5, and he doesn't really document the trip that well, but he manages to make the drive in 31 hours and 4 minutes. So he shaves, 4 hours off the trip.
My God.
And he's a dude that has some flair, but doesn't really do a lot of publicity at the time. I mean, this is very, very beginning days of social media. He puts out a book called The Driver. In 2006, was there any social media? There may have been, like, was that MySpace then? I don't even know. I'm so old. But he's not really the modern face of the Cannonball Run. Flash forward a little bit further, comes a guy named Ed Bolian. Does that name ring a bell at all?
Mm, no,
No. Okay.
I don't
So
think.
Bolian is he's way younger than us. He might be 40 now. Born and raised in Georgia, went to Georgia Tech. Huge car enthusiast, and basically these days is essentially a luxury car salesman. He has a big presence on YouTube and I'm sure other video platforms. Some of his content is just sort of telling funny stories about buying and selling and leasing luxury cars and the crazy shit that rich people do when they enter in. It's some of it's pretty funny, but he's definitely pretty entertaining. He's also very Christian, which I'm trying not to hold against him, but seems like a decent enough and certainly entertaining guy. Uh, as a younger guy, I forget. I think in high school, maybe it could have been early college, but I think high school, he manages to interview Brock and Yates from Car and Driver magazine about the Cannonball Run, and its history and the legacy there. And he tells them that he wants to do the run at some point and break the record. And they basically blow him off because of course you would. Yeah, you're 17, you're 18. Yeah, you're gonna. Okay, right. I hear you. You're gonna go out there and beat this record. He's building up his career in basically in luxury car sales, but all the while he is noodling about doing his own Cannonball Run, and he spends 10 years working on this. And there is a bunch of his content on YouTube and a couple different blogs. He's actually well known in the kind of high end car community. He tells all these great stories, like I said, and so he's sort of known for his storytelling. So after this, you want to go be entertained. It is pretty funny. Um, so he specs out a car to do his own run. This is now 2013. And he knows all these people from the car community nationwide because it's a robust community. People have their niches. They're into, certain Hondas can be modified a certain way. So there's a community of Hondas because these guys like to tinker with this type of engine versus that type of engine. And so there are all these little networks of folks, which from your Rolls Royce,
Mhm.
universe, right? So all these little niche guys that have different, sort of very narrow specialty interests and specialty abilities that he feels like he can call on. So when it comes time to when he's getting closer to thinking, okay, I'm ready to do this run. He has this sort of revolving cast of characters, and a few of them are saying that they're in, but in order to be in, they have to be willing to spend a little bit of money on this deal because he's just bankrolling the whole thing. And finally, he goes, you know what? Okay, we're doing it. We're doing it this Friday. I think they leave on it. I forget now whether it was a Friday night or a Saturday night. We're going and talks to this one guy, Dave Black. Do you want to be my co-driver? And Dave says, yeah, I'm in, with no hesitation. To which Bolian responds, yeah, you should have. I mean, I appreciate the fact that you said yes, but there should have been a pause there. and Black says, "Well, let me ask my wife," and then calls back 2 minutes later. Okay, I'm in. So okay, I mean, come over to my house. Tomorrow we'll talk through the vehicle. Da, 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 da. And then they decide they want to take a third person as well, just for support and logistics. He's not going to drive. Okay,
Mhm.
he's just going to be there because this car is specced out. It is unbelievable the amount of technology that they have in this thing. So the car itself is to look at it from a distance from the outside, you wouldn't really be able to tell it's anything special. It's a 2004 Mercedes-Benz CL55 AMG. In one account I read that all the rear decals that indicate Mercedes or the model number have been taken off, and it's either silver or gray, and some of those cars. And you're probably more of a car guy than I am. Some cars you just look at and they just look like they're going 80 miles an hour when they're parked,
Hmm.
and then other so sometimes you look at a Toyota or Honda whatever, and they just look sleek and cool. It's a cool design. And then sometimes you look at the expensive German made cars or whatever, and they seem sort of that's a Mercedes or a BMW. It looks like a Toyota. I don't it's a very bland car. Well, this is a Mercedes with a killer engine, but it looks like nothing. It's
Hmm.
nothing special, and so it's nothing special really by design. So they spec it out with infrared visuals, radar guns, radar jammers. There's a CB radio in the thing. It is duded up like crazy. They replace the trunk with extra gas so they can carry like 40 or 50 gallons of gas to make this trip. And so they decide to set out. They leave from the Red Ball garage. In order to do an official run, you have to start at the Red Ball garage, which is in Manhattan, and end at the Portofino Inn in Redondo Beach, California. So L.A.,
Okay.
but on genuinely on the beach. Radar, laser jammers. There's obviously GPS tracking, CB radio. They did have a deadpan. Reports vary on whether or not the bedpan was actually used. They had to schedule fueling breaks with bathroom breaks because everything was timed down pretty much to the minute, and so no time is wasted as they're going across from east to west. They were able to tap into these various communities of basically car enthusiasts who wanted to help. And so in one stretch of Ohio, they're cruising through Ohio, and they have a lookout who volunteers. Okay, I'll get in front of you and ride ahead and be a mile or two a mile or two in front of you for a stretch through Ohio. But Bolian says after the fact, this guy's in the fast lane, going like 100 miles an hour with his hazards on. I'm like, dude, we're breaking the law. Turn your hazards off. Like, don't. That's not what we're supposed to. We're supposed to be blending in. Uh, but they are. I mean, they have just apparently they're commenting the entire way that they're just having phenomenal luck because the weather's behaving, traffic is behaving, cops are behaving. They're not really dealing with law enforcement at all, and there's kind of a northern route and a southern route. They definitely take the northern route, which in my mind makes less sense. The northern route is you leave New York, basically cut through Pennsylvania, Ohio, Indiana, Illinois, kind of Iowa,
Sure.
then kind of wander down to Denver, then cross the Rockies, and then turn south. The southern route would be, cut down to Virginia through Tennessee, Arkansas, Oklahoma, through New Mexico
Hmm.
to avoid the mountains. That must be further, but it seems like it's less mountainous because getting from Denver to California must be, if you're going this fast, a gigantic pain in the ass. Uh, Through Ohio, Indiana, and Illinois, their average speed across those three states, want to guess? Across an entire fucking state.
115 miles an hour.
They averaged over 100 miles an hour across all three. Their
Oh,
top speed was 152
good God.
miles an hour. Uh, and at one point, Bolian makes the comment, "Yeah, our whole strategy was avoid attention, blend in, just be boring." You're going 100. Like, what are you talking about? They pulled in to Redondo Beach in 28 hours
Holy shit.
and 50 minutes. They averaged coast to coast 98 miles an hour,
Oh
going
my God.
all the way across. Uh, it's a completely illegal, wildly unsafe, and just bonkers thing to do. There's a whole bunch of info on this guy online, and and the records that the documentation of basically this process. He calls it the first data driven cannonball. It's like, okay, I had a plan, we had all this technology. In certain respects, the execution of it was almost secondary. They were so ready and so prepared that they were just, or at least he was anyway. He knew exactly what he was doing, and he knew how to execute on all the technology. And they you know broke this record. And he of course uses this to he leverages this incredibly for his business and his celebrity. There have been other attempts since then. Um, During COVID, because everyone was at home, people went, "Oh, wait, this might be a great time to try another Cannonball run." In April of 2020, a guy named Arn Toman and Doug Tabbitt uh, broke the record again, broke Bolian's record, and did it in 25 hours and 39 minutes, driving an Audi
Jesus.
S6, going like a bat out of hell. Uh, People seem to be encouraging Bolian to make another attempt. I think he's married and has some kids now. Okay, yeah, I think I'm good. He got to do it once. He got to break the record once, which may have been the only thing he wanted to do. So he's heralded in these circles for uh his heroics and also his just insanity. But 98 miles an hour for 28 hours straight. No, thank you.
Jesus Christ. And I used to be impressed by getting from San Antonio to Aspen in 16 hours, but good God,
Right.
that's insane. I don't think I could handle it. I don't think I'd do it.
Well,
It's just the
I mean,
stress involved with that must be
the,
incredible.
the stress involved, and then so when they left New York, they left New York at 1 a.m. Because of course, I mean, you want to drive during the cover of night because darkness gives you cover, but there's also less people out, so the roads are empty. But
Well,
again,
getting off Manhattan Island is you got to go through the Hunnell Tunnel. You got to go over the George Washington Bridge. You got to get out of the
right,
city. So you almost have to do it after midnight if you want to get out with any.
right. But just going across the flatlands, the prairies, across the middle of the country,
Uh,
how do you not hit an animal? Like,
I,
I mean, yeah,
really, the only reason I can think of, I mean, maybe it is shorter to go the northern route, but maybe you miss more speed traps
I don't know.
by going that way because I mean, I've driven over the Rockies many, many times and it is not fun. I mean, it's beautiful to look at, but
Yeah, but yeah, now imagine doing it at 100 miles an hour. I mean,
yeah,
it'd just be right. And by the way, I have to pee. So here's the bedpan. Yeah. So okay, now relax enough so you can pee while going 100 miles an hour. Nope.
thank you, Brian. That
Anyway,
was awesome.
the history of the Cannibal Run. So the movie is not a documentary. Remember that when you watch
Right. I figured that out with the Captain Chaos bit with Dom
it.
DeLuise. So,
Right.
my favorite bit in that movie is where he's calling out the license plates to write down Farrah Fawcett and
Uh,
Niner Whiskey Tango. It's just like, what are you saying? What does this mean? Good stuff. All right.
Another
Well,
one in the books. Thanks for
that was
listening, folks. We appreciate it. Check us out online. Go, give us 5 stars on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or wherever you're listening to us. Drop us a line at dreamidiotspodcast at Gmail. Check out dreamidiots.com. And yeah, thanks for listening and hanging in there with us.
and as always, be good to each other.